Next on The Professional Rule Breaker.
I'm Rachel Simon from Connect the Dots Digital, and I love listening to the Professional Rule Breaker because I love learning from fun, interesting, and edgy people. And so should you. So I hope you enjoy the show.
So welcome back to the Professional Rule Breaker Show. I am your host, Kathy Walterhouse, and here at the Professional Rule Breaker, you all know this, that we are here to help you succeed and move to the next level. So today I want to introduce my guest that will do that exact thing. Her name is Rachel Simon, and she is the founder and CEO of Connect the Dots Digital, where she helps B2b companies close more business using the power of LinkedIn. And she works with individuals, she works with teams, and she helps them position their brand so they can grow organically, and you can find your talent, and you can stand out in the industry. So I want to welcome my friend, Rachel.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. And I know we're going to have a super fun conversation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely fun. Fun's the name of the game. I always say, if you're not having fun, why do it?
Oh, exactly.
So I saw something that you wrote. It's actually a question. Is LinkedIn working as an asset or a liability in your company? And it sounds like people would be a little surprised about the answer. So let's talk about that. Are companies really using LinkedIn?
Yeah, I came up with that kind of question because financial metaphors seem to resonate, right? We want things to be working in the positive, and we want things to be an asset for us, and we want to kind of cut loose the things that are working against us. And I think in the B2B space, a lot of organizations don't necessarily think of their LinkedIn strategy in those terms. And so what I mean by that is that when you have your company, and I want to think beyond the company page. The company page is a given, right? You have a company, you need a company page. And most organizations take care of that one. But where they miss the opportunity is their people. So when you have an organization where they have their leaders, their teams profiles dialed in, clear messaging, clear branding, everyone's talking about the company the same way. They understand how to build a network, how to leverage their network, and they're utilizing content in a strategic way. That is a true asset for that organization.
Okay.
On the flip side, we'll just use the profile piece as an example. If a leader, a C-level in an organization is getting an award, media, whatever the case may be, visibility, and somebody goes to their profile and it is out of date, it's not updated, there's no branding, it looks like they never use it, that is such a liability. It really is a mark against them. And so we want to kind of continue to build LinkedIn as a resource that's going to help drive those business goals forward, as opposed to a stumbling block that's going to get people to go, what the heck does this guy do anyway?
Yeah, that's right. So that's interesting because I think it's almost like a two-part issue or point, I guess, that we need to make, because you have the leaders and then you have all the other folks that work at the company. And I think sometimes the leaders maybe do a better job at it only because they have people working for them. I see you shaking your head like, oh, maybe not.
It depends on the size of the company and the resources that they have at their disposal, to be honest. And I think at the larger companies, yes. At the mid-sized companies, not necessarily so much.
Okay. Okay. So how do you get everyone on the same page? Giving, whether it's a leader or it's an employee, how do you get everybody on the same page so that they have like a brand, like the branding is all the same, the messaging is all the same? Because I know there's a lot of companies out there that highly discourage their employees from having a social presence. In some cases, they actually almost make you certify that you're not doing anything on social media. And
It's such a
I
shame, to be
It
honest.
is. It is. It's a little crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. So let's talk about that first, which is it makes me sad when companies are so afraid of their people being active and engaged on LinkedIn. And I've heard it many times. Oh, what if they get poached? What if they leave? If they're gonna leave, they're gonna leave. I
Yeah.
mean, if you have a great culture that's encouraging them to be visible, build their brand, they're going to want to stay because it's a great place to work. If you put the shackles on them, maybe they want to go work somewhere else. I
Right.
mean, so if they're going to leave, they're going to leave. But I always kind of try to pose the question of when you send your people to conferences, to trade shows, to professional events, you send them with a certain amount of trust and expectation that they know how to speak about your organization. You're not following them. You don't like the marketing director isn't going, say this now. This is how we say this. They've trusted them that they know how to talk about the brand. So why do we feel like when it comes to LinkedIn, we have to be so vigilant about everything?
Hmm.
It's unnecessary, and it again, I think that it puts companies in a those that get it and are like, go people, talk about us, they're going to see the benefit. The other ones, it kind of, they're a little bit like you're like dragging a dead weight behind you a little bit, in that it's just so much harder for people to know what you do when they have to do so much digging and figure it out, as opposed to just serving it up to them on a
Yeah.
silver platter.
I agree with you. I think it's a real asset when you have your employees have a profile that reflects the company and things going on in the company that they're really happy about and new growth and all of that. Because I have found in many cases, clients will actually, your customers may go look you up and they'll want to connect with you. And basically, let's say your profile has, I just work at this company. And it's because that company wants you to have very, very, very limited social, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, across the board, any one of those, that I think it is a really great asset. So I'm just curious, what is like the thing, I guess in LinkedIn, and we'll kind of focus on that. What is the biggest no-no that you should not do, whether you're a company or you're an individual?
That's a great question.
There's probably a million things,
There's a
right?
million. There's a million things. I mean, the biggest mistake that people make is not having a updated and optimized profile. Number one. The
Okay.
biggest no-no is utilizing third-party automation tools that push out connection requests, commenting, and spam messages on your behalf.
You know
Because
what? I am so glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you about that because I get spammed
yes,
terribly on LinkedIn. And what's really funny is a lot of times it's people that are in my same space. And I'm like, they never even
mm-hmm.
looked at my profile and they're just spamming me and not even.
Because most likely they're pulling you into their search because you have the word sales in your profile. And so they're just assuming that you need help with sales. But they're going to sell you on your own services. I get sold on my own services from time to time. The issue with these automation tools, and LinkedIn's very picky about what they will allow and won't allow.
Mhm.
I'm happy to send a link of like who their certified, their approved third-party tools are. But these automation tools are doing actions on your behalf, and it breaks the user agreement. And so you put your account at risk. And that's why I consider it to be the biggest no-no, is because we have spent years, some of us, decades, 2 decades at this point, if you have been there since the beginning, building your network and cultivating it. The worst, do you want to put that at risk? Because like you should not put that at risk. It's not worth it to just automate a few
Mhm.
things that most likely you can do less in a more impactful way than more in a kind of broad way that's pulling people into your searches that are not going to be necessarily your target market. So that's a little bit of like my automation soapbox, because I hate automation tools. And I think that where I'm seeing more of those crop up are on the AI commenting, which
Well,
they're
I'm glad.
not good.
Yeah,
They're
I'm
not
glad you
good.
brought up the commenting because that's also something, right? Once you start building up your profile, you get more comments, which is always fantastic, right? But then how do you respond back to all of them? Hey there, I am all about making a big difference. So I am so excited about announcing our podcast sponsor for today. They are the very last U.S. family owned manufacturer of consumer goods products. And best of all, their products are healthier and safer for you and just really amazing quality. And I can do all the things that I do if I really wasn't health conscious. So this is very near and dear to my heart because they are healthier and safer for you. And best of all, they will not break the bank. So if you're interested in finding out more information and switching your shopping to something that is non-toxic and healthier for you, go to switchaway.com/rule breaker, and one of my friends will reach out to you. And just let's work all together to see if we can make an impact and switch to healthier and safer products. And of course, supporting small businesses. So again, drop your information at switchaway.com/rule breaker.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's important to respond to comments, particularly if you get a post up that's getting a lot of engagement. You want to engage back with those people because they took the time to comment on your content. Now, if they just are doing like great post, you can just give it a little thumbs up and move on because there's really nothing to say. If someone asks a question, somebody is putting some thought and care into what they're saying and clearly is engaging with what you've shared. You want to respond to that, because I always like to kind of, when I'm doing a training for a team, I like to put things in like the real world perspective. So again, if it's awkward in the real world, it's awkward on LinkedIn. So the real world example is you're at a networking event, you say something, you respond to what I said, and then I just turn and walk away. I'm like, right? Now, unless you said something like super offensive, there is no reason to do that, right? It's so rude. So that's basically, if we leave our comments unresponded to, it's the same as kind of just walking away mid conversation in a good conversation. So we don't want to do that because that's awkward.
Yeah, that's actually a really great way of looking at it because I think because it's electronic and you don't see the person on the other side, in many cases, you don't know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really great to think about. If it's awkward in person, why would you ever want to do it? It's almost like you're hiding behind a screen,
Yeah,
which I think a lot of social media can be.
it can be, but LinkedIn should not be. LinkedIn should be where we want to be ourselves, because ultimately the goal is to meet new people who can move our professional and personal goals forward. And I've met some amazing people just in the comments where I've been on another person's post, gotten engaged in a back and forth with somebody else on the comments, and then connected with them and then built a relationship with them. So commenting is so important. It's so impactful, and it's a lot less intimidating for some people than starting their own content. And I know a lot of people who have a very strong LinkedIn strategy that is based around commenting versus original content.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me, for entrepreneurs, so for small businesses, and even maybe the solopreneur that's out there, what would be the first few steps that you would suggest for them to do?
Yeah. I'm going to keep like sound like a broken record, but building your profile. And when you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, like that's what I am, Your profile this goes for most people, but particularly for the business owner, your profile is not about you. It is about your customer.
Mhm.
What is their problem? Why are you equipped to solve it? How do you solve it? And how do they get started with you? So, writing your profile very clearly from the perspective of your target audience, your customer, so that they come across you and totally like know that you know how to fix their problem. Make sure your headline is also talking about that, because I've seen this before. And, a lot, if I had my headline, founder and CEO of Connect the Dots Digital, do you know what I do?
Mhm.
No.
I mean,
My
I would, for me, just that, I would think, okay, you help with networking in some shape or form, putting things together. Yeah.
putting things together, or maybe it's okay, digital's in there. So maybe it's something like digital marketing or a
Mhm.
web design firm. Like it is completely nothing.
But I
Um,
have to say, I love the name. When I
well,
saw the
thank you.
name, I
I
was like,
mean,
I love the name, Rachel.
right. It's a fun name, right? But it does, if I had that as my headline, I'm making a lot more work for my customers to figure out what the heck I do.
Right.
So business owners, entrepreneurs need a headline that puts that value proposition front and center. So as soon as somebody sees it, they totally get what you do. And then the other thing that I would encourage is, even if you're a solopreneur, again, that's what I am, build yourself a company page. You don't have to be super busy active on your company page, but without it, you miss out the opportunity to pull your brand into your profile. And if you don't have a company page that you've built, you're going to have that like gray, sad little
Oh,
box
yeah.
next to your
Right.
company name.
That
And
they're like,
again,
it's almost like you don't exist, or the company doesn't exist.
it's like you don't exist. And also, I don't know if you do this, but I do this on LinkedIn. If I come across somebody and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting company name, I'll click on their company page, and then it generally is going to send me to their website. I'm going to find my way onto their website. So when we don't build a company page for our personal companies, we miss out on that opportunity to send our buyer to that down that journey to get them to come to our website.
Mhm.
And even if 1 out of 10 people signs up for your lead magnet or your newsletter, like that's good,
Yeah.
right? That's a success. So let's want to make it as easy as possible to get people from your profile to where you want to bring them deeper into your world.
Okay. Okay. Now you mentioned newsletters because obviously that's a feature that LinkedIn offers. What tools are the best tools for people to start using on LinkedIn if they're not already doing it?
I would say a couple of things. Newsletters, it's a really good feature, because I was just talking to somebody about this morning. When you start a newsletter on LinkedIn, now I would always recommend you should encourage people to have their email newsletter, where, right, because you have those people in your email service provider. But a LinkedIn newsletter, you can do them both. And the beauty of the LinkedIn newsletter is that when you create your first issue, a notification goes out to everybody that you're connected to, your first degree network, to subscribe. So if you have 1,000 people in your network and a third of them subscribe, that's good, right? You've got
Mhm.
a third of your
Absolutely.
audience. And then anytime somebody follows or reaches out to you in a connection request, they are also prompted to subscribe. So my newsletter slowly continues to grow. I don't push it out to people, meaning I'm not saying subscribe to my newsletter, but it slowly continues to grow because people follow me or connect with me and then they subscribe. And then anytime you publish after your first edition, an email goes out to everybody who subscribed and a notification. So that's a good benefit to newsletters. So I would encourage, test it out. It's a good place to repurpose content maybe you have on your blog or you've been sending in your e-newsletter. Like, people aren't really going to pay that close of attention. If you sent an email to your list 2 weeks ago and then you use that on LinkedIn 2 weeks later, it's totally fine.
Right.
Another tool I really, really love is Canva. I'm just like obsessed with Canva, and I use Canva all
Okay.
the time. I do every graphic in Canva. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm not an artsy person, but Canva has made it so easy to build all the visual sort of components of my content. And so I think that's just such a great tool. And my other favorite tool, I'm trying to think of, well, it's not really a LinkedIn tool, but I do use it all the time, is I have an AI note taker that I'm obsessed with called
Oh,
Fathom.
I do too. Love,
Yeah, love it.
love that. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just made everything
So much easier.
easier. Yeah.
So much easier. Yes. You and I probably we probably use the same one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you about, because I know this is something that you do, is audio rooms, right?
Mhm.
Because I don't think a lot of people know about that.
Yeah. So audio rooms, if we can remember back to the sad days of the pandemic when we all just maybe found ourselves on Clubhouse for a couple of months, Clubhouse was absolutely a lifesaver
Mhm.
in the beginning of 2021 because so many of us were stuck at home and very socially isolated. And so the social audio app that came out, everybody wanted to be on it, and it was a great way to meet new people, connect, and it's very like vibe. I met actually so many amazing LinkedIn connections through Clubhouse rooms, people I have very, very deep relationships with today. And of course, all these apps, they all want to be like everybody, them, each other. And so LinkedIn developed audio events. I think it launched maybe about a year and a half ago. And similar to, you create it like you create any kind of event, except again, it's just speaking. And I love them for a number of reasons. My biggest reason is there's such a low barrier to entry. Anybody can create one. You don't have to be camera ready. You don't have to have a whole, you're not doing a webinar or a workshop. In fact, I think when people try to teach on them, they fall flat. I think they're much better when you just come in with a topic and engage people in conversation. And all you need is a good topic. I always encourage a co-host because sometimes people are hesitant to like come up and talk to you at first. So it can be real awkward to be up there by yourself and just be like,
Right. Talking to yourself. Yeah.
hello,
Because it's
who
like you
wants to
are
come
talking
up
to yourself.
here?
Yeah.
So get a friend that you have a good rapport with, and then you can start having that conversation, whatever the topic is, and just enjoy and have fun and test it out, because there is a space for really any topic in an audio event. And I would encourage and start to you just like any of the other events, like you want to invite some people so that they see it, and it prompts you to do a post about it. But they're pretty easy to run. I co-host one every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, and there's four of us that host it. So we alternate every week of who's the host. And they're a little bit silly. We get a little ridiculous sometimes, but like we've been doing it now for so long that people get the vibe of our room. They're not coming in to expect us to be like all buttoned up. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, they
And
know
that
what
makes
they're
it more
getting.
fun anyway. Yeah.
Right. They
No,
know what they're
absolutely.
getting, but they're always getting a good quality conversation. I would encourage your listeners to really just test it out. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You have three people and you have a great conversation, and maybe the next time you have six people.
Right, right. Exactly, exactly. One of the things I have to say, I wish with the audio rooms, and maybe it's just I don't know how to do it, is I wish they could be recorded.
You and me both.
Because I was like, my
Yeah.
gosh, that was so great. And then I'm like, whoa. I
There
don't
are,
have a good recording of it because it would be like an
yeah,
external recording.
it
So,
has to be an external recording. And there's people who I have yet to kind of learn the hack of how you go about recording it. There is a way to do it. I've tried it. Like I tried one time to create a Zoom, like to do it on Zoom and then record the Zoom and then try to extract it, and it didn't work. So I know it's so annoying that they won't let them be recorded, but because Clubhouse, you could record them and you could clip them, and like it was really nice to be able to clip out certain sound bites, and then you could create audiograms or whatever other stuff you could do with it. But yeah, it is very often, like at least once a month, someone's like, "Is this recorded? I missed it." I'm like, "I'm sorry, no,
no, it's not. Yeah, no, unfortunately, it's not.
it
Um,
is not."
yeah, yeah. Let me ask you about Sales Navigator. What do you think about that? I've had people
Um,
ask me about that. I have mixed feelings about it.
do you use it?
I have used it in the past,
Okay.
but I don't know, like I said, mixed feelings on it.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, it's not inexpensive. It is an
Right.
investment.
Mm.
However, and I've actually just upgraded to it within the last 2 months. So I was like, I had used it, helped a client with it several years ago, and then hadn't really done anything with it. And then one of my clients currently uses it, and he's like, you need to get in here. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. The thing about it, again, you have to be very intentional with why you're upgrading. So I think that too often people spend the money and then they don't really use it. So maybe they just don't take the time to learn it or really take advantage of it. And this is something too I see with organizations, like with sales teams, right? Like they spend the money on getting their people up on Sales Navigator, and they may be using it, but they haven't built that foundation on their profile. So they're sending tons of outreach and messages through Sales Navigator, and then these prospects are coming to their profiles and they're like, what does this guy sell?
Mm.
I
I
don't
hadn't thought
understand.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
making that investment work better, more efficiently by getting those foundational components built out. So I think what Sales Navigator does really, really well, which LinkedIn, even LinkedIn Premium doesn't allow you to do, is you can't save searches.
Mm.
You don't have as much search nuance, meaning like you can go kind of broad on LinkedIn and LinkedIn Premium, but on Sales Navigator, you can go by specific title, years of seniority. Like you can get real granular in the kind of person that you're looking to engage with, add those into a lead list. And then as your network grows and your second degree connection grows, that list of people grows and you have more people to potentially get to know, right? Do some outreach to connect with and whatever. So if you know how to use it and you are actually taking the time to do your prospecting there, it's really dynamic. But I think a lot of people spend the money and then they just are like, I don't know, I barely have time for LinkedIn. How am I supposed to do this?
You're right, exactly. And do everything else that comes with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I generally, like, if someone asks me about it, my question to them is, are you prepared to actually spend time on Sales Navigator and make your investment worthwhile? Because you're spending $100 a month.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not cheap as far as a tool. It's not cheap at all.
Right.
Uh, so you mentioned like second degree, and so there's all these individuals, obviously thousands. I'm not even sure what number LinkedIn is up to. Number.
1 billion.
Oh, yeah. So a
Yes.
lot of potential clients, contacts out there. And I know you can even just in regular LinkedIn, you can do searches for specific companies and who's in those companies, or there's a lot of different things you can actually do. So they might be 2 degrees from you, 3 degrees, who knows how many degrees away from you. So when you do a connection request to those folks, any words of wisdom, because you can just do a connection request, totally fine, or you can put a little note in there. What would you suggest?
So I always encourage to include a note. The challenge is that LinkedIn made an update towards the end of last year where if you have a free account, you're limited now to personalize connection requests somewhere between 5 and 10 a month, which
Mhm.
is really unfortunate. I think it was a bad move personally. They say they did it to reduce spam, but it just increases the amount of connection requests without a note because people can't send a note. And so sometimes it's obvious why someone's connecting with you, but a lot of times it isn't. And so without that note, it's really hard to necessarily know, should I accept this person? Now, everyone has their own rules on how they go about accepting connection requests. So I don't subscribe to any, you do what feels good to you, right? Some people will accept everybody. Some people want to have like literally shaken the hand of everybody in their LinkedIn network, right? I'm somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
I'm kind of picky. Like I'm not going to connect with everybody, but if it feels like this person is somebody who looks interesting. If you're in Atlanta, I tend to connect with most professionals in Atlanta because that's where I am. I have my own personal rules. So if you are going to leave a note, if you have Premium or Sales Navigator, any of the upgraded LinkedIn options, it's best to just keep it very simple. Don't make it generic. Don't make it about you. Refer to something in that person's profile. That's always a good one. A piece of content that you saw from them. If you met somebody somewhere, like at a conference, if you attended a workshop together, something like that. Hey, enjoyed meeting you at blah blah conference. Or I will literally be in a webinar with people and just say, in so and so's webinar, hope to connect, so they know where I'm coming from. If you are in a mutual like networking organization, right? This is one that gets me. So I'm in a couple of networking organizations, and I always try to connect with people and say, oh, welcome to name of networking
Yeah.
organization, hope to connect. A lot of people don't accept those. I'm like, what are we doing here, people?
Really?
Like, yes.
That's
I'm
kind of
like,
funny.
and I'm like,
Wow. Why are they
are we,
there then?
why are we here? And I don't know if it's like they just don't have the habit of coming to LinkedIn, or again, maybe their rule is they need to shake the person's hand to accept the connection request.
Mm.
But to me, if I'm vetted to have joined this whatever networking group, that's all I need to know. Like, if you're good enough to come into this group, you're good enough to join my network because I trust the people running this group. So I just find it to be very odd because I'm like, hello,
Wow.
I'm here to
Gosh.
meet more people. I don't know about you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the function of LinkedIn is to network. At least that's what
Yes,
I think.
I
Network,
agree.
and you can do a lot of research. There, you can definitely do a lot of research
It
based
is
off of
a
what's in LinkedIn.
Yes, it is a great place to learn about people. And
Mhm.
then you can utilize that knowledge to start a conversation. I've reached out to people. I mean, this is one where, when there's like trending topics in the news feed on the right, and I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, and Taylor is in the news a lot. There'll be
Mhm.
things like LinkedIn news stories about Taylor Swift, and I've connected with people that I've seen in the comments on those, and literally have written a connection request note saying, any fan of Taylor's is someone I need to know on LinkedIn, hope to connect. And I have connected with people from a mutual love of Taylor Swift. So you can engage people from sports, music, movies, any of those things, checking out the trending news stories and being able to start conversations based on what people are talking about in those. It's just really good strategy too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had never really thought about that, but it's people like to socialize with people
Mm-hmm.
that they think are like themselves, many cases, right? They have the same interests. In your case, you love Taylor Swift. So for you to hang out with people that, in a virtual world that love Taylor Swift, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a college student, and so I was giving him some advice. He goes to UGA, and I was like, go do a search. Look at, he's going to be an accounting major. I was like, search for people in the accounting field that went to Georgia
Mhm.
and just connect with them. Hi, I'm an accounting major at UGA. I'd love to connect. Do you have any advice for me as I start in my program? Like, who doesn't want to respond to that? And
Yeah.
that's, people love to help people. So, like, think about, can you leverage your alumni networks, your where you live, your community, things like that. But just connecting in an authentic way and not making it about you. Too many people are like, I do this, I'm so great, or
Right,
like, I won this
exactly.
award, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah,
Like,
it's all about them. They don't listen. Yes, no.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And those are the people that, quite frankly, are probably not a good fit for whatever it
Correct.
is that you're looking for. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
What about, because I'm getting messages about this all the time right now on LinkedIn, the little validation.
Yeah, I would encourage people to do it. Basically, it's just telling others that you are a real human person and not a fake profile. If you have a subscription to Clear at the
Mhm.
airport, that's who in the United States LinkedIn uses Clear for the verification. So if you have a Clear account, you literally just log into your Clear account, and
Hmm.
it takes like 2 seconds. If you don't, and I've walked through this with a client, it took 5 minutes. You just have to like take a picture of your driver's license and do a couple little things. Your name has to match exactly. So like if
Mm.
you have a nickname on your LinkedIn profile, you may just need to change your name field just to get through the verification process, and then you can just change it back. But I would encourage people to do it just because, again, it's telling the community like I'm real. But also, if there's ever an issue with your account, look, sometimes people
Mhm.
get locked out. They do get thrown in LinkedIn jail for whatever reason, sometimes deservingly because they're using an automation tool. Sometimes
Yeah.
LinkedIn thinks you're doing something on the naughty list and you're not. But I think by actually making it clear to the platform that you're real and you've taken the time to verify yourself, it will expedite getting back to your account in a
Yeah.
faster way.
Okay. Okay. Back in your good graces.
Yeah, you got to be real
Prevented.
careful though. 3 strikes and you're out. So if you get thrown into LinkedIn jail 3 times, it's really hard to
Wow.
get back.
I must be
Yeah.
too much of a goody two shoe because I wouldn't even think. I'm like, okay, what can I do to get thrown into
I mean, but I
LinkedIn
know
jail?
people, there's one guy that this was a couple years ago, but he had a spreadsheet with people he wanted to keep up with and comment on their content. And so he would right click on the spreadsheet. Oh, sorry, he had bookmarks in his browser. He'd
Mhm.
right click on the bookmarks and 30 tabs would open. Well, LinkedIn thought he was an automation tool.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that
Yeah.
totally
So it's
makes sense.
like sometimes it can't necessarily. The irony is that LinkedIn is sussing out automation through a bot. So, right.
Oh my gosh.
I
Wow.
know it's like bots all the way down, right? It's just like, and then
Yeah,
other
which
bots
bot
doing
can
this.
conquer the other bot? Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me ask you this, because I ask this question of everyone that is on the show. What makes you a rule breaker?
Yeah. When I saw that question in the pre-show thing, and I was like, interesting. I think my nature is being very much a rule follower, and I always was as a small child as well. But I think the best answer is that, I have a very non-traditional path to how I came to doing this. I absolutely never in a million years had envisioned I would ever want to work for myself, have any entrepreneurial interest, drive, whatnot. And I came from the nonprofit sector. I worked in nonprofit for 15 years here in Atlanta, and I loved it, and it was great. So I don't have any formal marketing background, education. I don't have a marketing degree. Everything I have learned in the marketing side and the sales side is from doing it. You know, in my roles in different nonprofit agencies, we had to market them ourselves. We had to market our own programs and events. Nobody did it for us. The marketing department was literally there to create a brochure. And then we were the ones that had to actually get people to come to things. So you learn a lot about how to market stuff when you don't have any support and you got to figure it all out yourself.
Yeah,
So I think
scrappy. Yeah.
very scrappy, and particularly when there's no budget to do things, having to be very lean, very creative. And so learning that ultimately, and this is a lot of the way I approach LinkedIn with my clients, is it's all about relationships, right? In the nonprofit world, we're successful by building relationships with our stakeholders, whether those are clients, funders, volunteers, building a sense of community, and just being real and authentic. And all of those things are what make people successful on LinkedIn. And the more we can kind of bring that in, the better the platform is. So I think it's just being very coming from, how did I get here? I would never have expected it, but here I am almost, going into, I left that job, my last job 9 years ago this summer. So next July will be 10 years of working for myself, and
Wow.
it's
Congratulations. That's
super
great. That's a
fun.
milestone.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's always interesting. I always think that everything is meant to be, and the path, everything that you've done in your lifetime, you have learned something from. And it's great when people aren't rigid and they just, this is the way it's always been, this is the way it's going to be. And in your case, you were willing to be scrappy and be okay with a new path and becoming an entrepreneur.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's anybody who does it knows it's got its ups and downs, but it's very fun. It's not dull, never
That's true.
boring.
Every day is
Never
different, no
boring.
matter
Every
what.
day. Every day is different. I think that, you see, sometimes you see those memes of like, oh, working for myself, making my own schedule, having so much free time. And then the reality is like, it's 10 o'clock at night and you're still at your laptop. Like, I need to go to bed. I mean,
Yeah. There's a lot of joy, I think, in being an entrepreneur
yeah,
and helping and serving and providing a lot of value. But you're right. Sometimes the work isn't always done at, you know, the earliest of hours, I would say.
yeah. And like, when you go on vacation, are you working on vacation? Are you on vacation? Like,
Mm.
people sometimes it's a hard decision to make, right? But I encourage going on real vacation and
I was
leaving
going
that
to say,
laptop at home.
yes. No, I'm 1,000%. When you're off, you're off. And be
Yes,
really present to whatever it is that you're doing and the people that you're with.
agree. And
Um,
turn off your notifications and don't check your
yes.
email.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And I have tried to set up everything I do so there's no crisis.
Exactly.
So that you
Exactly.
can, when you're off, you're off.
Yep. Yes, I agree. And honestly, in my world, like most people should not have a crisis when it comes to LinkedIn, unless they're doing bad things and they get kicked out of their
I was like, they're in
account.
LinkedIn jail.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Rachel, I want to thank you for coming on the Professional Rule Breaker Show. I think this has been a really great topic. There's so many people out there. If you're not using LinkedIn and several other social platforms, if you are an entrepreneur, I highly suggest using whether it's LinkedIn or any of the other ones, but LinkedIn is a really great, if you're, especially if you're B2B, LinkedIn is the place to be. So be sure to check out Rachel. She said something I thought that was so good, and it relates on so many different levels, whether it's sales or it's LinkedIn or something. If it's awkward in real life, it's awkward in LinkedIn. You can just kind of relate that to almost anything. If it's awkward in real life with whatever it is you're doing, it's going to be awkward if whether it's sending out an email or it's how you're contacting somebody or you're networking or any of those type of things. I love that way of thinking. But again, I want to thank you. And all of Rachel's information will be in the show notes. So if you need help with your LinkedIn profile, be sure to reach out to her. And I want to thank you again, Rachel, for jumping on and being a guest on my show.
Thank you for having me. It was an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much.